Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 94 of the Civil Gore podcast. I am your host, Tim.
And I am your host, Brian. And I like the number 94, Tim, because that was the year, 1994, when my beloved New York Rangers won the Stanley Cup, which is a very long time ago now, but it was pretty big in my little history there. So, and I know this is a horror podcast, and perish the thought we branch off into sports, but I think that, I mean, if RTO could do it, we could sure do it every so often, right?
Well, the problem is I could only speak about college basketball because that's the only sport I watch.
But that's okay, since I don't know much about it, so you could like help me on that one, and then
that's why we work well together. We're complementary. Yeah,
exactly.
So we have another bit of sad news this week.
Yeah, this has got to stop this year, really.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if we're just paying more attention to it or what's going on, but we have another unfortunate passing we have to report. This time of a special effects master, John Carl Buechler.
Yeah, I mean, he's even done more. I mean, he's been a special effects guy, and he's been acted, a producer, a writer, director. I mean, he obviously directed some big one, Troll, Friday the 13th, Seven, The New Blood. He did some effects work and he did some bit roles in Hatchet. Actually, he was like one of the characters in there. Of course, and he actually was directed your one of your classics there, The Curse of the 49er. That you just watched,
I saw
actually.
that. Yeah,
I was Tim just talked about that movie.
He's got just 65 credits alone on the special effects category on IMDb. He's got multiple director credits, 19 director credits, 17 actor credits. I mean, this guy was very prolific in the horror industry.
Yeah, and he was really well liked, and it's it's sad to hear someone, I mean, you never want anyone obviously to pay, but he's one of those guys that were like, that everybody just knew and he had so much of a force in all the different in horror and just in all this different aspects. So, and I know he was battling cancer for a while, and they were trying to get a GoFundMe up for him and everything. And, so that's just sad. If you follow the horror Twitter and social media, you probably saw a lot of the stories today. A lot of people who were really saddened by it, too, as well as we are. So we hope we don't stop starting shows like this, though. I don't, I mean, we feel we have to mention it because, all these people mean so much to us. But I know it sounds selfish, but I want to stop reporting this. I don't want to hear this. Everyone stay well, please.
Yeah. But it's good to be able to remember these people and go back and look at their work and kind of look at the stuff you missed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
R.I.P. John Carl Buechler. Truly a master that you not even heard the name, but you've almost definitely seen his work. Even in the non-horror genre, he did some great special effects work. So definitely go check his stuff out. All right, Brian. So let's get right into it. This is our first chop. All right, my 40 years of terror continues. I finally got into the 80s. I was looking forward to some good 80s movies. And this time I spun up 1986. Now, 1986 was a fantastic year for movies in general. If you were a child growing up in the 80s. So I was very curious to see what out there in the horror genre I had not seen. And I stumbled upon one I just, again, slipped through the cracks. Chopping Mall from 1986.
Wow. I forgot when I saw this on your list. I forgot that you're specifically doing movies that you haven't seen. Now that you said that, I'm like, yeah, wow, that's one. I mean, that used to play on cable constantly, and it was always streaming on Prime, and Netflix had it for a while. This really must have slipped through every crack in the Tim Castle here.
I think at some point I probably read the synopsis and said, nah, because the killer in this is literally security robots.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound on the surface like an appealing horror movie. But let me tell you, I had a blast with this movie.
Oh, this is a classic.
It's a classic. It has such a great sense of humor about it. It's very self-aware. It knows the premise is silly, and it embraces it. And that's what I loved about it. It's just fantastic. It's got some great lines in it. It's got some silly but great kills, and absolutely loved it. Yeah, it's about, like I said, it's about these security robots that are built for this mall to protect this mall, and they kind of go rogue. And this is back in the mid '80s when robots taking over was a big thing for some reason, like Short Circuit. I mean, Rocky had a robot at one point.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, Paulie! Happy birthday, Paulie!
I don't know what it was with robots back then. I guess it was that '80s, the computer technology was just starting to really take off, and people were kind of envisioning this future finally of robots taking over the world or whatever. So you had these they are kind of short-circuity in a way. They had that kind of the tank treads and everything.
And don't forget, this starred Dick Miller. Well, not starred, but this had Dick Miller in it, so that's automatically a classic.
Yeah, so this one's a fantastic. I watched it on Prime, I believe. So if you have not seen Chopping Mall, definitely go check that one out on Prime. It's really, really good.
Yeah, actually, that's in my collection. I have that special edition of it. That one's that was one I remember watching back when it was on cable. Back when I guess when it debuted on there, my friend Mark and I we used to watch. We were hysterical. In fact, there was parts where with the humor in it was so loud that I still remember. I think we were watching it one day, and I think it was like 10 o'clock at night. My dad had gone to sleep, and our hysterical laughter woke him up, much to his chagrin, as he came down, expecting us to be watching a rip-roaring comedy or something, and he saw killer robots on the screen. He was, I think, a bit more confused than anything, but yeah, that one, that one's just one of my favorites. And actually, it's a funny story. When we were just recently in California, Julie and I were in the mall near her family's house. It's called Valley Fair. It's big, massive, just ridiculously oversized mall. And we were walking through, and they literally had a security robot going around. I mean, it is Silicon Valley out there, and all I could think of is instantly okay, is this thing going to shoot my head off?
Have a nice day.
Because it had a camera, and I didn't sure what its game was really, but I couldn't figure out if it was trying to if it just reports back to a real security person, or does it actually have something in it? I assume it reports back, but still, it was kind of funny because that's immediately what I thought.
Yeah, it was great seeing the old 80s malls, too. I love anything that shows an 80s mall because I just have really fond memories of going to the mall and hitting the arcade, and they just don't make them like that anymore. Maybe they do. Maybe they're still out there. Not in my town anymore. They're not.
No, they're not the same, the malls,
Nah.
And in the arcades, sure, not the same anyway, so you're not getting those cool mall arcades. You got to see the one that's in the mall I grew up with. This thing, Seth and I went one time, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well they have this really cool arcade." And it was had a bowling alley downstairs, and it was cool because you can just literally walk around with pitchers of beer. But I found 3 video games. It seemed like, and it was all the big ones. I mean, I guess there was more, but to any classic video games, they just didn't have. It was mostly these weird those kind of timing games. Even the video ones, it looked like something you ever see those a movie where they try and show you a futuristic arcade and it's just literally blinking lights and you don't know what's going on?
Yeah.
That's what this arcade reminds me of.
Oh my gosh.
And other than that, it has all these prize redemption claw games.
Oh god.
And things like that. And I'm like, this is not an arcade. What the heck is this? You can't call this that.
I hate how ticket machines have basically taken over everything. The kids love it, obviously, but when I go in there, I just want to play a video game. I don't want to just do tickets the whole time. And most of them is literally there's no skill involved. You just throw the coin in and it spits out tickets, or it spins a wheel and it spits out the number of tickets. I'm like, maybe I'm just being an old fuddy-duddy, but I love a true arcade.
Well, remember how much fun we had it? When you guys came to New York and went to Barcade, that was old school games.
Awesome. Yeah, that was awesome. So awesome.
Yeah, I mean that was, and we fully relived that youth experience because we had greasy pizza in our stomach, just like you did from the dollar pizza place. So you go, and that's what I remember. Because when I grew up, there was our arcade we went to at our mall was right next to this pizza place called Hurdy Gurdy, where for $1.25 you got a slice of pizza and a grape drink. I mean that was what we did. So just not the same. But anyway, now that Tim and I have exposed our ages to the masses who didn't know it yet, let's move on to go back in time a little more. My Twilight Zone project continues as we are now 2 weeks away. So my any hope of finishing all of them before the Jordan Peele reboot is not going to happen. But you know what? I really didn't think it was going to. It's more just I'll keep going along. I'll make it a side project as that's going on. But I got a pretty decent disc. I'm on season 2, and the first one was Nick of Time. And that one had the great William Shatner in it before his, of course, most memorable episode of The Twilight Zone, and one of the most memorable Twilight Zones of all time. But this one was, it was a pair of newlyweds stopping in a small town are trapped by their own superstition when playing a fortune-telling machine when playing a fortune-telling machine in a local diner. And this one freaks me out a little bit because I could see myself totally doing that. And it's so funny because it totally plays on the paranoia that everyone has, where you can take, it's all about interpretation. Like, he literally is taking the most vague answers, but he's finding the way how it's connecting to his life and making all these decisions. And it's just, he's literally traps himself. But it ends weird because it ends in a happy ending where he decides, because his wife starts being so upset by it, that he says, all right, forget it. Forget the stupid machine. Let's just leave. And he leaves the town, and it ends with another couple coming back in who is equally obsessed, and they don't, and it escape. And Rod Serling's summary, his conclusion monologue even says that. He goes, one lucky to escape, the other trapped still in there. So it was kind of unique for a Twilight Zone where the main characters kind of get out kind of unscathed.
Yeah, I really like this one, actually.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, because like I said, I can relate to that because that's something I would do. Like, I still remember some stupid, like, fortune cookie thing that I read, and I was obsessed with it for 3 days because of what it predicted, and and it was right or something. So then I thought all fortune cookies were right. It was so stupid, but so I could definitely relate to that one as the paranoia there. But the next one was The Lateness of the Hour. Now, this one actually has a very historical piece in the Twilight Zone. I know I sound like Rod Serling, like an historical section in the Twilight Zone. But yeah, no, but this was because this was the first one where they did some experiments of shooting on video.
Yes, and it looks horrible, doesn't it?
Yes, it looks horrible. It looks like, when I first watched it, I was like, wait a minute, what's wrong with this? Why does it look funny? And I thought it may have been like they didn't have the like a copy of it anymore, and so they like tried to recreate it or something, with like pieces, and so it was like from like test footage. But then I did a little research and found out that this was one of the first. They did about 6, and this was the first one, and you notice it, and I have to tell you, it takes you right out of the story.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Because the story, I think, alone was not that great and kind of predictable, but probably not at the time. So I will, again, I'm watching this years later after seeing it before and seeing a million similar twisted kind of things from this. So, so that, and just to throw in the fact that it was on video and just the quality of the cinematic quality of the Twilight Zone wasn't there. It just was not a good one. Although it's had the girl that was in the Hitchhiker one, who actually I read up on, she had a tragic overdose at 35. So she did, she'd been in a lot of stuff. I think it was like Inger Stevens, I think is her name. And she was really good in that one, the Hitchhiker one we both liked. So Rod Serling tended to use the actors repeatedly. So anyway, this one is the daughter of an inventor objects to their perfect home when they are waited on by mechanical servants. And surprise, surprise, I'm sure if you just watch it in about 5 minutes, you'll figure out what's going on there. But the next one was The Trouble with Templeton. And this one I really liked. I don't know what it was about it, but just something I liked about it. I don't think it was anything revolutionary in terms of the twist or anything. It was just kind of like an enjoyable little 25-plus minute story. And basically it's a nostalgic actor revisits his late wife and friends at their old haunt, only to find out that he is now out of place there. And so it was just good. I think, the performances were really good in this one. Do you remember this one at all, with where he's like the Broadway actor?
Yeah, I remember the title, and it's vaguely coming back to me. I bet if I saw like a couple screen grabs, I would remember it instantly.
Yeah,
I do remember enjoying it though.
Yeah, it's just a really good one, and and it wasn't by far scary or any way or really weird. Just one of those like heartfelt ones, I guess. The next one is another one of this one's one of my favorites. A Most Unusual Camera. When 3 unintelligent crooks, and I love how they specify that because they are kind of like stereotyped, just like kind of clueless people. Unintelligent crooks get hold of a camera that takes pictures of the future. They set out to make a quick fortune with their new toy. So, and this one has the same thing. It's like they figure out, it's almost like the sports almanac from Back to the Future 2. They figure out a way to make this technology where they decide to, they go to the races and they make all this money. But, as in the Twilight Zone, greed will get you into some trouble there. So there's, of course, a twist ending that's pretty kind of funny. It's pretty much everyone kind of gets what they deserve in that one.
When you said sports almanac, it just made me think, I hope Tom Wilson at New Jersey HorrorCon has sports almanacs to autograph.
Oh, that would be great.
That'd be awesome.
Do you remember that Disney? Universal, when Universal had the Back to the Future ride.
Yeah,
they used to sell the notebook, the spiral notebook. Well, but it didn't have spiral in it. That's why it was like a composition. Those old composition notebooks with the binder, and they used to have a sports almanac one that was the cover, but you opened it up and it was just a regular notebook inside, but it looked like the sports almanac.
That would be cool
for the movie. So that was cool. I had it at one point. I don't know what I did with it, but somehow it must have got lost in one of my moves. But anyway, yes. So maybe he'll have that. And we can get that signed. So that'll be cool. The next one is another. This is another one of the most famous ones, and this one was one shot on the video, but it worked on this one. I think because the story was so compelling. And it was Art Carney in there, and so you're used to seeing him kind of on a more of a TV show environment.
Right, yeah.
So, and that was after it was called Night of the Meek. It was after a derelict Santa Claus is fired on Christmas Eve. He finds a mysterious bag that gives out presents. With his bag, he sets out to fulfill his one wish to see the less fortunate inherit the bounties of Christmas. So that was like a little magical Christmas tale.
This was one of those like sweet Twilight Zones, quote unquote, that come along every now and again. I really like this one. I love Christmas stuff anyway. So
right, yeah, same here. And this was a classic. And he actually redid this one on the '80s version with Richard Mulligan starring as the character, and it was really good too. So it's just a good story. Next one is Dust. A sympathetic sheriff and a callous con man are among the many who gather in a desert town on a hot day to see a man hung for killing a child while drunk. And this was interesting. This was a drunk driving incident that was on a horse and buggy, which is I didn't know that was a thing.
Apparently it was.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I don't know if they really booked it as a DWI or anything, and it had that term, but it was the same principle that he got. And this one was kind of funny because this one had a cool Western element to it, and if you like Westerns,
I like
this one. Twilight Zone. Yeah, this one was pretty good. This one
good.
just had that typical Twilight Zone fantasy fun in it. So yeah, so that was a good one. That was a good disc. I think I had some good. Other than that one, that Lateness of the Hour one, I pretty much loved all the other ones on there.
Yeah, that's a good disc. That's good.
Yeah.
So, Brian, tell us about Gulliver's Gate.
Oh, yeah. So, this is obviously, it's not really related to horror in a way, but, Tim and I like to share our different trips and stuff. This, because we like to branch out a little bit. There was some little horror tweaks to it, as I'll mention. But, so Gulliver's Gate, I don't know if you've heard of this, Tim, but suppose it's this really big installation in the Discovery Center in Manhattan, in Times Square. And what it is just these massive, and when I mean massive, like room-filled models of miniatures of different landmarks. Like the first one you walk into is, of course, is a giant replica of New York City. I got to share some pictures of this on our Instagram. You literally get this full-scale model of New York, not to scale, but just it has all the big things that you know about New York, that you look for, all the landmarks, but the objects move at certain spots, and you have key. They give you a little like a physical key that you can put in certain spots and activate things. But there's also stuff that goes on its own. Like literally, you can watch as cars are driving through the street, obviously through magnets or below or something, but they will stop at red stoplights. When it turns green, It will go again. Yeah, things light up. They have ambient lighting too, which will happen is every so often it'll get nighttime, so the city you'll see what the city looks at night. But they add a lot of great pop culture stuff into it. Like there's little scenes from Ghostbusters are put in there, including a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man by the building. There's a King Kong hanging off, and they actually did it to the new Broadway look of King Kong, which is kind of funny. And they show King Kong climbing up. You can click on it, and it shows a little video screen. Actually, we can watch it. But they have different time zones in certain spots. Like there's one thing, there's a little section where you could see the boat, and it looked like it was where they were taking Alexander Hamilton back to New York City after the duel, after he's been shot. There's just a lot of cool stuff. And to make it worse, I'm a sucker for challenges of hidden things. And so basically every giant miniature set here has hidden characters you need to look for. And so that's all you needed to say. So, like, New York City, there was a bunch that weren't even on the list. But just to tell you, like, some of the ones in New York you had to find were the Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, Batman, the Fearless Girl statue from Wall Street. And, and of course I had to sit there. We literally spent an hour in front of this one because I did not realize how massive this exhibit was. So basically the last couple of exhibits we were kind of like racing through because we spent way more time than I thought we'd need in there. It's just so impressive because I must have circled it 3 times because you keep seeing new things. And it's incredible. But it was cool though. In one of the when you were over in I gotta see what the land was. I think it was where they had there's the British Isles section where they had a whole bunch of stuff. Like there was one thing where they actually had a stage set up. A really cool stage, and depending on the key you turned, you could either see a Beatles concert, Adele, Queen. It was just really cool the way they did that. But what the cool thing is, one of the hidden things there was a haunted house and the Mystery Machine with the Scooby-Doo characters. So we found that one pretty easily. Yeah, so I took a picture of that. And just throughout the thing, it's like New York City, Niagara Falls, New England, the British Isles, Europe, Russia, Asia, Latin America, Middle East. And then the final piece de resistance, I'll say, is they have a full-scale airport set up. And I almost missed this because I thought we were turning and we almost walked out. And then I caught it and I saw this whole room where this full airport is. And the scale and scope of this airport was just impressive. But what they did is, I'm looking and I see this machine up on either side of it. And what they actually do is have planes take off and land.
Oh my gosh.
And it is I have a video of it. I'm going to send this to you, Tim. It is one of the most impressive things you've ever seen. I mean, you see how they do it. It's not like it's like, wow, how did they do that? It's just you could tell it's all done tech, with the tech. But it's the coolest thing ever. So it's like you playing with your toys as a kid, but your imagination is actually acting out in front of you. Some of these sequences.
Sounds cool, and I love miniature stuff anyway. So I would.
Oh
love
my
this.
God, Tim! If you can get if you come back to New York, then this will be a must do for you because you'll want to be in there all day. It's just you can't stop looking at it. And if you wanted another little bonus, they actually have a thing where they will shrink you into miniatures. So you can shrink into the miniatures to go in the model. It's about $43, I think, and you can choose any of the spots you want to be put into this model. So you
that's
live
awesome.
in infamy. Yeah, so you could literally put. I wanted Julie and I since that's where we rekindled our romance. Was in New York City. So I was thinking, that'd be cool if we could shrink ourselves and put ourselves in like the Times Square area where we spent the day. But we were running out of time at that point. We didn't get to do it. But then they have other versions where you can get actually like action figure size and maybe like a 12-inch doll size where it is so really, it's like 128 cameras take your picture simultaneously to come up with this. And I think that the most expensive one was like $200+. So if anyone wants to donate and if you want a Tim and Brian action figure or in-action figure, I don't think they
in-action would be more
in-action
accurate.
Figure, which is probably more accurate to what we do. Yeah, you can request that and we'll go there and we'll get
so
these
awesome.
done. But yeah, so look this up, Gulliver's Gate. It's basically gulliversgate.com, and they'll show you some of the things, and it's just the pictures don't do it justice. I can't recommend an exhibit more of it. Like of all the fantastic museums in the city, this exhibit was one of my favorite exhibits I've ever seen, like hands down of all time. It's that good. And model train fans will get a kick out of it because they actually have model trains going through these as well. In appropriate spots. It's just not a train set. Like literally, they will have certain trains, and it's even like in New York City, they in the Grand Central Station exhibit, you actually you can crouch down, and below the table is where they have the trains going, just like it would be
that's
at
cool.
the real New York train stations. Yeah. So sorry, I did ramble on a little bit more than I thought, but you could tell by my enthusiasm how amazing this exhibit was. I recommend this for anyone in the tri-state area that can come to this, or if you're planning a trip to New York, don't just look aside from this. Put this on your thing to do because it's really cool.
Awesome. All right, so we got a new Blu-ray box set. This was not in our Discmemberment because it's coming out in June, but this one's cool though. This is the Anaconda Blu-ray Quadrilogy. Limited to 3,000. I don't think I've seen anything besides the first Anaconda, but I really liked the first Anaconda.
Yeah, first one was great. John Voight was he was almost like a parody of something in it, but he was still great.
It was cheesy, the CGI snake and everything, but something about it, I liked it. It was actually really good.
Yeah. It had Ice Cube, Jennifer Lopez. It had a good cast. I mean, I only remember, though, I only thought there were two. I didn't know, where did they pull the other two from? I don't know if they borrowed from another franchise to make a quadrilogy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Apparently, there were two more. So
that'd be a fun set to have, though, I think.
Oh, I would buy it. I'm not spending $75 on it.
No. Gosh, no.
But, but we'll see. I don't know what it is. I couldn't find the price, unfortunately. But
we got some news about Pet Sematary, the upcoming remake. I've heard people arguing about whether this is a remake because they say it's actually a new interpretation of the source material.
Right,
so
that's
whatever
what
you
I
want to
keep
call
hearing.
that. Yeah, but it is releasing to 4DX theaters, so that's cool, man. I cannot wait for this movie.
Yeah, do you have any by you, those 4DX theaters?
No, we have what do they call it? Ours is called PDX. It's not anywhere close to the 4DX stuff. It's just it's essentially an IMAX without the IMAX branding, but they have the big speakers and the bigger screen and that kind of stuff. But,
well, this what they're talking about though. The 4DX is the ones where the seats will move and they pump in aromas and stuff.
We don't have any of that kind of thing.
Yeah, they have one in New Jersey somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. I want to say it's like a couple of. It's not like close, but they are putting that in that new American Dream. That's actually by Cone's house, at the Meadowlands. So they're putting in some 4DX theaters in there. I want to try that one because I want to see some of them. I mean, the whole motion thing to me in certain movies, like I don't get, like I can't imagine. What are they going to do with Pet Sematary? I don't know. Does it keep like every time there's a jump scare, does your seat go back? I guess. I don't know.
What kind of scents are they going to pump in there? The smell of rotting
cat? I don't know.
I don't know. That's weird.
Maybe like some stale John Lithgow scent. I don't know. What else? What do they have there? What does he smell like? I mean, they're making candles for everybody and everything.
What
now.
does John Lithgow smell like? I would like to think maybe cedar, maybe a cedar with maybe a little bit of a musty book smell.
I was gonna kind of go with a sophisticated musk. It's like something along those lines. But yeah, there's definitely like an old world but pleasant aroma, right, to him, I guess you would think.
Yeah.
I don't know. This podcast has brought up some strange topics. I mean, from Kurt Russell's sack now to John Lithgow's
maybe like
scent.
a faint, maybe like a faint Old Spice. Like maybe
right?
from like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but he does look like a clean man, so I don't think he wouldn't smell like bad.
No, he's perfectly pleasant, like walking into a library.
Yeah, exactly. And like that old time when you pulled out the card catalog,
that's what he's.
And there'd be some leather-bound books just in the vicinity.
Yeah, it's like cedar and leather-bound books and a little bit of a dusty card catalog, I think is what John Lithgow smells like.
I agree. You know what? I think that's a good way to describe it. And we're going to make that a Kickstarter. We're going to make the John Lithgow candle. Of course, he doesn't know about it, so don't say anything. But yeah, no. But if anyone else has an idea for John Lithgow smell, let us know. Get us on social media or any other celebrity we've discussed if you want to go over their smells.
Just don't go with Donald Sutherland's ass for that one.
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Or Kurt Russell's sack. Neither one probably should. That should be there. There is some taboo.
Those are on the ban list for candles.
Yeah.
Tell us about this one, Brian. Moving right along. A new indie horror streaming service.
Yes.
You told me about this, and I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, though.
Yeah, I looked at it. I signed us up just because I think with the signing, there is a cool feature to this. I think when you have an account, it's free, but I think you get to save specific scenes you like. and create memes out of it, apparently. I have not figured out how to do that. I really didn't spend much time on it, but
what is this called?
That's what it kind of said. It's probably that should be the big key, right? It's called binge horror. And I didn't put that on the rundown. No wonder why you're asking that.
Yeah.
Okay. It shows that I was not prepared for my own rundown here that I put down. But yeah, it's called Binge Horror. It's available on all the iOS devices. If you have an Amazon Fire Stick, probably Google Play, any of those sticks and Rokus and devices, all those things, they seem to have it. I looked, and it's basically, when it says indie service, it is indie. There has been much I heard of on there. So Shudder, it is not. I will say. But then again, when Shudder first, I don't remember what Shudder was like when it first debuted. I don't know when we came into it. I'm not sure what level of advancement it was at that point, but there's a lot of low budget stuff on here, which is fine with it because we do love our indie horror. There's a good collection of shorts, which I love. So I definitely going to check some of the stuff out. I mean, I could tell though there's some stuff that are just that look like it's a movie you've heard of, but then when you actually look at the title, it's not. Like Friday the 12th or something. It's like those kind of movies.
A Nightmare on Oak Street. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, but you know what? It's a free streaming horror service. And as far as I'm concerned, any source for just a bountiful of horror movies, whether they're indie or mainstream, you know what? Bring it on, because I love options.
Yeah. All right, guys. So, we're very, very close now to our trip to New Jersey Horror Con, which we're very excited about. And just want to let you know,
1 week away from when this episode drops.
Yeah, so we got the complete schedule is now posted at the New Jersey Horror Con site, which I think it's just NewJerseyHorrorCon.com, I believe.
Yeah.
But they have all the photo op times, the panels, the films, special events. I mean, Brian posted just the Saturday panels alone. We could literally stay in there from 8 to 5. Just watching panels and not get any guests done or vendors or anything. I mean, this thing is so packed with stuff to do. We're only going to see a tiny fraction of it.
Yeah, and I because I'm obsessive and I like spreadsheets. I made this massive spreadsheet. I don't know. Did you even get to look at that yet? The one where I did, where literally every minute of every day I have a color coded event that's going on, so you could look at it fully. So we could literally see that. Okay, if we're in this, watching this film at 8:15, we are missing this, and this. So awesome. Basically, it's a good way to see everything at once on a schedule. And like Tim said, I mean, there's the professional photo ops are on there, the movies, the panels. I mean, there's just basically there's no way to see everything if you're. I mean, even if Tim and I split up, there'd be stuff we'd miss.
Right.
And, and just so, we're going to do the best we can and seeing as much as we can and report it back. And actually, might as well just mention that now. Our idea for next week's show is going to be sort of a bonus episode, although it'll be released as probably a somewhat full-size episode of just a big preview of it, because, we're going to be getting ready for the con next weekend. And, we kind of just want a nice, easy episode to do, so we're just going to go over some of the stuff that's there, and for anyone that's planning to go, that isn't crazy person like me and has to research every little tidbit about it, and you just want to hear some highlights, that'll be a good episode for you.
Yeah, and I thought it might also be fun to go through the guest list and talk about some of our favorite films they've done and that kind of stuff. Just something fun to do as a preview, because like Brian said, we just need kind of a light episode heading in as we're getting ready for the trip, and we'll probably have a recap episode on the back end coming out of it to let you know what we did there and stuff. So, and we're going to try to post some stuff from the show if we have time.
As much as we can. I mean, we'll definitely probably send pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum, but I'm going to bring my portable recorder. So, and then actually I'm going to bring my old microphone setup and laptop to try, and so we may even do little mini recordings after the thing to edit into the post episode. So you'll kind of get our fresh, most recent take, and not just a tired us on the following day after we're struggling now to remember stuff.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we got a little Blumhouse news. They're developing a female-led horror film with the cam duo of, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. Is it Issa or Isa?
I don't. Yeah,
I don't know.
Pronouncing things wrong is your game. I
don't
know.
Yeah. Well, I can pronounce the other one better. Daniel Goldhaber.
Yes, that
maybe.
I don't know.
That's
a good one.
But this one's centered around a serial killer. So Blumhouse just keeps churning out horror movies, and they're good. That's the thing. It's not like they're churning out garbage. All their stuff is like at some level is reasonably good. So I just love the stuff they're doing.
Did you get to see Cam yet? By the way,
not yet. I need to catch it, especially after Kim and
Yeah.
Ket did a episode on it, and I need to watch it.
It's really good. I think Horror Nights In podcast did one too on it.
Cool.
It's just a really good. It was a really good movie. So I remember I had kind of touched on it. It was definitely something. And it's on Netflix. You can it's easy to catch.
I'll definitely need to watch that one. Travel Channel is rebooting the series Ghost Bait Paranormal. Yeah, paranormal. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Paranormal pioneer Bob McGill and investigator Tina Storer take on frightening and personal hauntings in America. They use isolation combined with sensory deprivation to overcome their fear of paranormal activity.
Do you remember this at all?
I've never heard of this.
And they're calling it a reboot. I don't remember the first one, but it just sounds cool. Sounds like a cool thing. And Travel Channel's ghost shows are awesome. So
why would they be afraid of paranormal activity if they're pioneers in the
that's
industry?
the part I know. Unless they're literal pioneers trapped from another time and they came back. Maybe that's what they mean. I don't know. I really don't.
They're scared of televisions and iPhones.
Yeah, so that's their therapy. They lock themselves in with all these things, and but yeah, you know what? I'll definitely give it a watch because I watch the Dead Files.
I love those shows. Oh, come on.
And Travel Channel does such a great job on them. So.
Yeah. Netflix is planning more interactive content due to the success of Bandersnatch. Probably no surprise there that was coming, and they've already got. I know my son watches the Minecraft one that is interactive, where you can make choices during the Minecraft series. So
cool.
There's actually a lot of this stuff, and it was even going on before Bandersnatch in the kids arena. So a lot of that interactivity stuff that adults are just now finding out about.
Right, and Cone was telling me one already. They announced that it's not a horror one, but it's the Bear Grylls show, like an 8-episode show. I don't know what is that. It's like all the choices. Do you want to drink your own urine? I don't know. What else? What are you?
Do you want to eat a turtle?
Sure. So I don't know. But Cone kind of said that was the first one they announced today. So I don't know what else is coming. I just bring more of those on to me, because
they're fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I would imagine a cool slasher themed one.
Yeah. Do you want to kill them with the axe or with the hammer kind of thing?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Annabelle Comes Home is the official title of the Annabelle prequel coming June 28th. No, not a prequel. It's the one with Lorraine and Warren, right?
Yeah, it's where they said I saw someone describe it as it's a night at the museum, but in the Conjuring universe, basically. So I think it's when they bring Annabelle back to the museum.
Oh, okay.
Their little museum kind of thing. So I'm sure a lot of stuff goes down. So it sounds like it's going to be like a really crazy version. Like really a lot of crazy stuff going on in it.
I love those movies. I love the whole Conjuring universe thing. So that's coming June 28th. So I'll definitely be looking forward to that one. And I'll tell you, the last Annabelle movie I just absolutely loved.
I still got to watch all these.
Really
I got to do just the whole like binge of all the Conjuring universes in a weekend once.
Yeah. Love, Death, and Robots, a new animated anthology on Netflix. I just started watching this one today, actually, and it is incredible. It is so good.
And I finished it today. I was I couldn't stop watching these things. Like literally, I fell asleep watching because I was so tired last night. So I'm like, as soon as I got at work, I downloaded them all so I could go to my car at work because it is not safe for work. A lot of these things.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so I went to my car to watch it from download on Netflix, and I finished the last two when I got home tonight actually because some of the animation on this has to be seen to be believed.
Yeah,
it is so like
computer animation, not like traditional cell drawn. Animation, at least not the ones I've seen yet.
Yeah, there are some that are a little bit more traditional animation. There's some anime in there. There's some like those sticky figure-y type ones. Like the one with the one with Hitler in it at the towards the end is like that. It's like that kind of like almost looks like that stop motion but paper animation kind of thing. But it's drawn. But one of the ones though that blew me away was one, and this is the one that a lot of people are talking about as one of their favorites. Is Beyond the Aquila Rift. And it looks like there's a woman character in it. And I saw the actress that they modeled her after, and think if they were side by side, you could not tell the difference.
Oh man,
it is so realistic, and a lot of it, I've seen people compare it to like almost like the cinematics in a video game. And there is some, but it's obviously a way more compelling story than some of these, and the animation is definitely higher than like, let's say, an Xbox could just show like a game. It's better than that, but it is definitely, when we say not safe for work, that is a warning that I cannot stress more because just not the gore, but there's tons of genitalia for both men and women that they consistently show in this.
Lots of profanity.
Yeah, a ton of. It's like heavy metal too, is what I think Cone told me when he was telling me about this before it came out. And that's a great. Remember heavy metal back in the 80s? That's what. But this is like heavy metal on steroids. I mean, it's all genres. It's sci-fi. It's horror. It's even comedy, because there's one in there where it's literally about yogurt that becomes sentient and takes over the world. And so it's like there's some just crazy little vignettes, and they're all like anywhere from 5-7 minutes to like, I think the longest one is like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So you can really binge watch this thing. There's 18 episodes. You could watch them pretty much in a sitting if you really were, had the time to watch it. But I cannot recommend this series more. This is one of my favorite things I've ever watched on Netflix. It was so good.
It's awesome.
Just
Everyone I've seen so far has been awesome.
Yeah, and it's just really cool. And there is one, I will say, there's one with Topher Grace and Mary Elizabeth Winstead where it's the only live action thing in it, where they're live action and animation mixes with them in a very unique way, which I will not reveal until you see it. So it'll be cool.
Nice.
But just some great stories, and they're the little. It's like basically like the great short films, but animated.
Big thank you to a couple of listener shout outs. Big thank you to Cody. She got us a Hammer list. She did the intern job and got us a list of all the Hammer movies. So we really appreciate that. Now we can start collecting those and knocking them off the list. And David sent us an awesome iTunes review. He'd already reviewed us one time on iTunes, and he just sent us another one that was just fantastic. So we really appreciate that, David and Cody, for your always kind words and support of the show and spreading the word. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys are so awesome, and you've always been there like from the beginning, and like, always just supporting us with stuff. So we can't thank you enough, and we'll probably do it a bunch more times.
Yeah, they're Civil Gore super fans.
Yes.
And finally, happy birthday to our buddy Paul, March 21st.
Yes. Yeah, so it's happened when this episode drops.
Right,
so I want to make sure we did it on the recording, so we're not like a week late. It only basically drops a day late.
All right, guys. So not a particularly long discmemberment this week, but I think some stuff you're going to like. So let's get right to it. These are our Blu-rays for the week of March 26th. This is our discmemberment.
Wait, no, please, God. No, God.
Okay, so first up is definitely my pick of the week, Brian. Probably yours too. And that is the issue of the original Pet Sematary. Now, this one is being released in several different formats. It's being released on just regular Blu-ray. It's also being released as a 4K release. It's also being released as a steelbook. So take your pick. There's plenty of ways to get your Pet Sematary fix this week. Of course, 1989, released by Paramount, directed by Mary Lambert, starring Dale Midkiff, Denise Crosby, and Fred Gwynn, all of which, except for Fred Gwynn, we're going to see at New Jersey HorrorCon.
I hope we don't see
we don't see Fred Gwynn since he's
no offense, I love Fred Gwynn, but I don't want to see him in this, because it'll be our own little Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, but I am very much looking forward to seeing Denise Crosby and Dale Midkiff.
Yeah,
I think that's
and also
awesome.
Michael Hughes and Brad Greenquist.
Yeah, Brad Greenquist. Yep. So that'll be a lot of fun. A big Pet Cemetery reunion going on there.
Yeah, and did you see they actually have a sign set that you can get photos with, where they're actually with the Pet Cemetery sign and everything.
It looks so
that's
cool.
really cool.
Yeah, so of course, if you haven't seen the movie, and why haven't you? Because we covered it on a past episode. After a tragedy strikes, a grieving father discovers an ancient burial ground behind his home with the power to raise the dead. Now, I could not find the special features on this one. I did look, so I'm sure there's special features on this disc. I just don't know if they're new, if they're rehashed from the original release. I just don't know. I wasn't able to track it down in time for the show, but definitely look for those.
Yeah, my guess it would probably be the same ones, and maybe like a bonus, like reimagining the Pet Cemetery with
Probably,
something on the new movie. I could see, but
Yeah, usually I can dig into some of the forums and stuff and figure out what the special features are going to be. And this one, there just wasn't anything on it. So maybe as you get closer to release, you'll be able to find those feature lists. Next up is The Body Snatcher from 1945. I've actually seen this one. It's pretty good. Released by Shout Factory, directed by the great Robert Wise, starring Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, and Henry Daniel.
Or Tim's Logic Professor.
Yeah. A ruthless doctor and his young prize student find themselves continually harassed by their murderous supplier of illegal cadavers. And of course, this one's famous for starring both Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi in the same movie. This has a brand new 4K remaster of the film from the original negative.
Wow. Think about it. A 4K version of a 1945
Yeah,
film.
I can't wait to see this. A new feature called You'll Never Get Rid of Me, Resurrecting the Body Snatcher. An audio commentary with director Robert Wise and writer, film historian Steve Haberman, and a documentary, Shadows in the Dark, The Val Lewton Legacy. Still galleries, posters, lobby cards, movie stills. This sounds like a great disc. It is a great film. So if you want a little old school, I don't think this is Universal, but it's in the kind of same vein as the old Universal classics. I think you'll really enjoy this one.
You know, that should have an honorable mention for Pick of the Week, just for the one thing of making a 4K movie version out of a 1945 film. You know, that just alone should get some kind of mention there.
Yeah, I really had a hard time this week because the next, not the next couple of discs, but I'll mention it when we get to it, is another one that I'm really, really looking forward to. Next up, we have a box set. This one's called Blood Hunger, the films of Jose Larraz. He did 3 films between 1970 and 1978. One is called Whirlpool. One is called Vampires, which I believe is his most famous film. And one called The Coming of Sin. This is an Arrow release. Of course, these were all directed by Jose Larraz. And tons of features. Too many to even list here, but every one of these films has featurettes, interviews, audio commentaries, the whole 9 yards. So this looks like a fantastic collection. I don't know much about these movies or this particular director, but it kind of strikes me as sort of the Paul Naschy type vein of probably one of those discs you could just pick up and you would just enjoy regardless, even if you weren't familiar with the work. Looking forward to that one. Next up, Brian, this is going to be your guess. And I had a hard time this week because a lot of these movies I thought you may have already heard of.
Yeah.
But this one's called The Suckling. It's no strip nude for your killer, but it's close.
Yeah.
This one's from 1990, released by Vinegar Syndrome, directed by Francis Terry, starring Frank Rivera, Marie Michaels, and Gerald Prager?
Yeah.
I don't know. Prager? So, Brian, what is The Suckling?
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, obviously, you think of suckling, you might go like to something about maybe like a vampire thing or something. But I'm gonna stay away from that. I have a feeling it's gonna be some sort of creature involving it, though.
Okay.
There is a creature, and I think it will not so much drain the blood, but maybe the soul out of people in a. Even though it's from 1990, I'm gonna say it's kind of like maybe it takes place in a gritty 1970s New York.
Okay, you're getting there. I think you might have. It's not. You're kind of way off base, but there's some aspects of it that I like. So, The Suckling is actually about a woman who goes to a back alley abortion clinic, which your seedy 70s stuff was kind of reminding me of that. Only to have her aborted fetus attack her boyfriend, and everyone else at the clinic. So I guess
is his name Cletus?
It's a creature of some sort. It just happens to be an aborted fetus. So,
but it's not Cletus. It doesn't want to get a letter.
I don't think it's Cletus. No. But this one I've never heard of this movie.
I want to say I did, but I don't. It was one of those things like in passing. I've seen it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. This one has a brand new 2K restoration. It did not get the 4K treatment.
That's sad. A 1990s can't even get to 4K, but like
45
the
can.
40s does. Yeah.
It's got a video interview with writer-director Francis Terry, a video interview with actor Michael Gingold, an archival image gallery, and reversible cover artwork. So next up is one I'm also very interested in. This one's called Dominique. It's from 1979. Another Vinegar Syndrome release, directed by Michael Anderson, starring Cliff Robertson, Gene Simmons, not the Kiss Gene Simmons, Jean Simmons.
Yeah.
Jenny Agutter, a millionaire who has recently lost his wife, starts believing that he is being haunted by her spirit. This has a brand new 2K restoration, an audio interview with actor Michael Jaston, an audio interview with assistant director Brian Cook, original theatrical trailer, and reversible cover artwork. The premise of that sounds kind of cool, especially for 1979, kind of a ghost movie. Sounds really appealing to me. Next up, if you're a William Shatner fan, here's another one for you. Kingdom of the Spiders.
And who isn't a fan of me?
I was actually going to read the synopsis as William Shatner, but
Okay, do that. Yeah.
1977. You're doing a much better job of it, though. This was released by Code Red, directed by John Bud Cardos, starring William Shatner, Tiffany Bowling, and Woody Strode. Brian, you do a better William Shatner. I'm going to let you do this synopsis, please.
Oh my God, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
But okay, let's see.
In rural Arizona, countless killer tarantulas are migrating through a farm town, killing every living thing in their path. The town's veterinarian will do everything in his power to survive the onslaught.
Very good. Very good. All right. Audio commentary with director John Bud Cardos. He's really hung on that nickname in the middle, isn't he? Bud.
Yeah,
Puts it in
he's like,
quotes.
you are not taking my bud away from me. I don't care.
Producer.
And said from many people in the 70s, Berkeley, too. But, okay.
Producer Ego Cantor and star Tiffany Bowling. An interview with Tiffany Bowling and a theatrical trailer. This one's kind of an infamous cult movie, I think. Kingdom of the Spiders. I've heard of it mentioned many a time. Now, this next one I'm super interested in. I've never...
Oh, and this is the original. Oh.
Yeah,
cool.
but I just saw the cover, and the cover is super creepy. This one's called The Children. It's from 1980, released by Vinegar Syndrome, directed by Max Kalmanowicz, starring Martin Shakar. I'm just terrible at names this week. Gil Rogers and Gail Garnett. A nuclear plant leak turns a busload of children into murderous atomic zombies with black fingernails.
This used to scare me as a kid, actually, with those little kids with the black fingernails.
I need to track this one down.
at all?
No, I haven't never watched this one.
Oh,
it looks
yeah,
cool.
I remember seeing this after someone described it to me. And it was like it was a counselor at day camp or something. Someone was telling me about it, and like I remember being like, and I was obviously when this came out, I was only 8 years old, and somehow since my mom was very lenient with what I watched in terms of horror as a kid, I think I watched it when it got on cable, and I regretted it because it pretty much was, even though I knew what was happening because I was basically told the whole movie, still did not make it any less terrifying for me for some reason. Now it's probably would not be as freaky to me as it did obviously as an 8-year-old, but just something about it was creepy. I'm definitely going to pick this one up, though.
Yeah, this one has some great features, too. This one has a newly scanned and restored 2K print. It has a new audio commentary with director Max Kalmanowicz, an archival audio commentary with producer co-writer Carlton J. Albright, childhood memories, Making the Children, a new interview with Carlton J. Albright and production manager David Platt, Return to Ravensback, a newly produced Locations Then and Now featurette, which I always love those. Those are cool. The Lost Scene, audio from A Lost Scene of the Children, an archival video interview with Carlton J. Albright, Memories of the Children, archival featurette with Carlton J. Albright, Patricia Albright, and Gil Rogers, Making the Children, archival featurette with Carlton J. Albright and David Platt, The Children the Musical, archival interview with Stan Richardson, co-creator of the musical rendition of The Children, which sounds very interesting. And, of course, our typical reversible cover artwork. But, man, the cover to this one is super, super creepy. Go check it out.
Yeah, well, like I said, the movie was creepy, so it deserves a nice, creepy cover. Wow, this is actually a pretty good week.
Yeah, it was. Like, wall to wall was pretty darn good week for releases.
And I know this is out of the ordinary where we don't discuss things a couple of weeks away, but remember what's coming up in April. A Civil Gore classic is going to be on a dismemberment very soon.
Yes, go back to episode number 2, if you want to hear about the Manitou. I cannot wait for that disc.
Oh my God, I will I think that might be one. As soon as I get it home, I'm gonna rip it open and watch it.
Yeah, if you haven't heard episode 2, that's still one of our proudest episodes. That early on, I think, was still one of our best episodes.
Yeah, because that just was one of those magical episodes where just every comedy point hit right,
Yeah.
and just it was the perfect movie for it, and it really I think it helped us find the kind of direction we wanted to take the podcast.
Yeah.
Where we review a movie, but also try and keep making sure we have our humor in there.
Exactly.
And
so
So
big theatrical release, obviously, this week is Us by Jordan Peele, starring Lupita Nyong'o. I can't ever say her name. Elizabeth Moss and Anna. Is it Diop?
I don't know actually.
A family's serenity turns to chaos when a group of doppelgangers begins to terrorize them. Looks absolutely terrifying. I cannot wait to see this one. Outstanding reviews so far from the early premieres. Just cannot wait to see this one in the theater.
Yeah, I think Julie and our plan is to see it on the preview night on Thursday. Because I think I saw lots of tickets for the one near me, because it's funny, the one theater near me just doesn't seem to get crowded on those preview nights.
We kind of have one the same way, that there's no shopping around it. It's just places to eat. So it just is not as crowded. So let's get to our feature film this week. The classic Roman Polanski film from 1968, Rosemary's Baby, starring Mia Farrow as Rosemary Woodhouse, John Cassavetes as Guy Woodhouse, Ruth Gordon as Minnie Castevet, Sidney Blackmer as Roman Castevet, Maurice Evans as Hutch, and Ralph Bellamy as Dr. Saperstein. A young couple moves into an apartment only to be surrounded by peculiar neighbors and occurrences. When the wife becomes mysteriously pregnant, paranoia over the safety of her unborn child begins to control her life. And Brian, I had not seen this one in so many years. I believe the first time I saw it actually was very late, because it's one of those movies that I don't know the particular reason, but I did not watch this one until very late. I think I watched it probably the late 90s was the first time I saw this movie.
Oh, wow.
And I knew it was a classic. I think maybe the subject matter just didn't interest me at the time. It seemed like kind of a slow burn type of movie, and I really wasn't into that at the time. And it really is. It's a very slow burn movie, although watching it again for the podcast, I was actually surprised at how riveted and captivated I was by the movie. I was never bored by it by any means. I was just very intrigued with all the shot selections and the way it was filmed and everything. But very creepy, very atmospheric movie, and rightfully so considered a classic. Probably Polanski's masterpiece, at least in the horror genre. I mean, he's done obviously some other classic films, but to me, this is kind of his masterpiece as a horror.
Oh yeah, as a horror fan, that's what we know him as.
Right.
But this was I had seen it when I was on the younger side the first time, so I didn't really remember much of it. And then I saw it later too. But again, I haven't, like Tim, I hadn't seen it in a long time, so I was kind of excited to watch this because it is such a classic, and of course there's scenes that you remember very vividly because they're not only so much from the impact of the movie, but because there are like a lot of like horror documentaries. There's always the same clips they'll show from it, and so there's a lot of like very notable scenes that are like brought into pop culture, and it's I mean, Mia Farrow basically at the time that she just explodes off that screen. She's just got she was. I mean, I don't know how old she was then. I mean, but it wasn't her first movie, right? I mean, she was definitely had been in stuff before that,
right? Yeah. But she was very young. I mean, she just looks very fresh faced and young at the time. I was looking her up real quick. 1968, because she was at the time.
If she's married to Frank Sinatra, I know.
Yeah, she was born in 1945, so she was 23 at the time.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, very young. Not her first movie. She had been in, obviously she'd been in Peyton Place TV series.
Right.
A while. That was her, she had a minor role in John Paul Jones. She played in a movie called Guns at Batasi. I don't know. Even the titles are giving me trouble this week.
And
a movie called A Dandy in Aspic, whatever that is. So this was probably her first major, really well-known movie, though.
Right. Yeah, no, because she was really, really good in this, and it's like, for her to be in such a, I mean, relatively, I mean, could not have been an easy movie for on the actors and actresses in this. This is all, the subject matter is pretty heavy, and some of the horror is truly frightening horror that is and it's so it's like, and there's so many things like that you can say, like, oh my God, what would I do? Like, I almost want to, like, I think it's funny. I think like KK Sam would do a great job with this movie, because there's so many spots where they would, one would have a choice,
Right.
And you say, what would you do here? What would you do here? Because there's a lot of decisions that, and I found myself like watching this movie saying, oh, well, why didn't she just do this? Or maybe she should do this, and it's like, and obviously, of course, because we see it, a lot more things, and there's a lot of foreshadowing in this that the audience sees that a character within the movie obviously doesn't see. So
one thing that struck me was it felt very claustrophobic at times, even though it's not completely takes place indoors. There are some sequences where she's out
Right.
and about, but for some reason this movie felt very closed in, and maybe that's probably intentional to showcase how trapped she was, because you do feel trapped in this movie. You feel trapped by the neighbors across the hall. You feel trapped in this pregnancy, trapped kind of by her husband, who's kind of a a-hole.
Oh my God, big a-hole in this.
Really couldn't stand
it's
him.
like, I think we'll get to that in a trivia. I think I put that one down where he was actually having an issue with that role. He, because he said, like, I guess, obviously it's hard to be like, I mean, what a really like just vile character he is when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what he does in the movie, and so it's like, and like I could never picture, we're both married men. I mean, we would not, like, how do you do that to someone you supposedly care about, and
yeah, it was uncomfortable to watch at times.
Yeah,
because
it was.
He just had this this air about him. He was selfish. He was arrogant to the nth degree, because he was an actor and trying to get his career started, but he still had that this narcissism about him. And even after Rosemary becomes pregnant, there was just some of the things he just were just god awful to her, just not taking her feelings into consideration at all, and kind of making decisions for her. And he's very much one of those people that believed the man makes the decisions around the house and the woman's place is kind of secondary. So
yeah, and and even like if you just think about it, I mean, obviously, if we discuss some spoilers here, we by this point our philosophy. If this is a movie this old,
in this classic,
they're going to be in this classic. Most people have seen this if you're listening to a horror podcast religiously. Just the fact on the I mean, obviously, it turns out he wasn't the one, but if you think about the prospect of her passing out and him basically raping her essentially, and claiming, oh, well, I didn't want to miss the chance for you to get pregnant, kind of a thing. I mean, that's still essentially rape what you did, buddy.
Yeah,
it's
awful.
Not cool. That you don't do that to someone you're supposedly love and want to spend their life with like that. So it's like, and just the arrogance of that one where he's just laughing it off almost as like, it's like he goes, well, I didn't want to miss the window, so I paid for the play tickets in advance. It's not, that's the kind of callous, like nonchalant attitude he had towards it. And, it just, he's just a vile character, and you can't like, you're constantly hating him more and more as this goes on, because, obviously she doesn't see what's going on, but the audience starts to see it faster.
Yeah.
And
but I mean, kudos to his performance, because he made you hate the character.
The real guy's not bad. John Cassavetes is not a bad guy in real life, as far as I know. I don't know him or didn't know him, but the character is what's vile. You can't, and it's just. It does get uncomfortable to watch at points.
Yeah, but to balance out a little bit, you do have a little bit of comic relief with the neighbor, played by Ruth Gordon, which I just loved. Loved. I mean, she was annoying, but in a appealing way, because her character was this nosy, interfering neighbor. But she was hilarious. Like, I love the way she talked. I loved how she slurred her words slightly. Like she's like this a constant alcoholic, maybe.
I've seen that though. That's a thing. I grew up in New York. You remember? I see all these like the old women like coffee clutches in diners and coffee shops hanging around doing stuff like and they really like that it seems so realistic to me. Like literally, like think about it. There's a sequence where she comes in with another neighbor, and it's one thing they kind of like barge in when poor Rosemary's trying to take a nap and relax with her book. With this, she's got her nice little music playing, and they just come in, basically sit down on the couch and start knitting like they had planned to be there for the afternoon. They literally brought supplies. That's like if I went over to Tim's house with like a copy of It and just sat in the middle of his couch and decided to just make myself.
The difference is I would be like, "Oh, cool, you brought It. Let's watch it."
Yeah. It's probably not the greatest example, but you know what I mean. It's like I was like, oh my god, she literally the one woman they both took out knitting things. They're like gonna knit a sweater in this poor lady's house,
But it kind of all that is to kind of lull you into trusting these people, because obviously, as we find out, they are not what they seem on the outside, and they're
oh god, no, yeah, and they just keep giving you little little hints that the building and the people, and even they're weary of it at first, and it's like, and there's just some cool scenes like there's one scene that I don't think I caught it all the other times I saw it the way it kind of played, but when they first go up to the Cassavetes' house for dinner that time, and there's like this sequence where Guy is talking to Roman and they're kind of off to the side, and she walks in and they kind of like look at her and you just know something was weird about that conversation. You don't hear anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what they're talking about, but it just seems like he's now he's really gotten him interested in something. And then remember, he does say that he goes, "Oh, I want to go back there." After originally he didn't want to get involved with them because they're a young couple, young, good-looking couple. They don't want to get married with this Maldakakas upstairs.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's a Yiddish term I dropped there. If you didn't know what that was, but so it's you don't want to obviously they're trying to start their new lives in the Manhattan, and so and then he just kind of goes does a 180, and now he's at he's clicking up with this older guy that what could they possibly have in common, it's
well, I think it's one of the brilliant things about this film as I was watching it is obviously I knew what was going to happen. I'd seen the movie before. I think I've read the book, actually. I think I read the novel of this.
I want to actually get the book now because I heard it's like one of the most faithful adaptions they said of a horror movie ever. So
what I noticed when I was watching this for the podcast is how there's hints obviously dropped all along the way, but every hint serves to build the tension that you as a viewer have, knowing what's to come, and you're kind of sharing Rosemary's fears. You know a little bit more than she does, and you're constantly a little bit ahead of her, and so you've got the tension of not only knowing what's going to happen, but you've also got the tension of a little bit more than she does, and you can't warn her about it. And there's this kind of uneasy tension there of keeping the viewer just slightly ahead of the main character the entire time as to their knowledge level, which I found just really, really interesting. It just served to build the tension throughout this movie. And I think it's why, even though it's a slow burn, it's not a boring slow burn, because you're constantly on the hook of doling out these little pieces of information that you keep getting about this plot. And it just kind of keeps you on the hook for the entire movie.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of there's a really good use of foreshadowing in this movie, because there's a lot of even little ones, like the fact that they were playing Scrabble in the beginning, then you use Scrabble later on to decipher the anagram, and the closet, of course, where they go, oh, why would this woman close up her closet? Why would she block this closet off and vacuum and, all that stuff. And just, I'm like, okay, they're really spending a lot of time in this closet, and then they kind of don't really, then the only time you ever see is when she's putting shelf paper on it, getting it ready for the. Then all I could think of, I'm sorry, was Johnny Dangerously in that. Remember, Joe, shelf paper, Johnny. I love shelf paper. So they, they got the, there's that they got, just little clues that you don't even you just don't, you pick up on it if you've seen it. Obviously,
Right.
you're like, oh, look, but like I do is I try and go into these. I kind of like actually when we pick a movie like of this stature and we but haven't seen it in a while, because it's almost like you're going in somewhat as fresh as you possibly could to a movie that you've seen before and is such a classic. So it was kind of good. So it was like, I was trying to put myself in, like try and bring myself back to seeing it as if it was the first time. And, it's just some of the great stuff, like and I think back on it afterwards too, like the glove, the guy, first of all, that's frustrating, with a guy where you lose a glove, like, cause I used to be the master of that. Like I have seriously 37 pairs of one glove, it's like, and so when he loses the glove, he goes, oh, I'll just go back and get it. And you're like, well, that's a weird scene to even include. But then, if you start putting all the pieces together, and then when Rosemary figures it out, you're like, aha, the glove, and and just it's just so interesting with the little like things they put right out in the open that as a whole makes like there's no like frivolous scene.
Right?
In this,
yeah, and that's a sign of a good screenplay. If there's no frivolous scenes, there's nothing. Everything is shown is for a reason. There's no fat to trim. I mean, it's just all. Right. Every scene serves to advance the plot. I mean, that's just a sign of a classic screenplay. And this movie has that in spades. I mean, I'm the same way, Brian. I love a well-constructed film where I can watch it and I realize that everything I've seen has led me to the climax.
Right.
And it's rare you get that. I mean, a lot of scenes, they have throwaway stuff. A lot of movies have throwaway stuff. I know one thing we talked about a lot, Brian, is first-time filmmakers, early filmmakers, and I'm speaking like I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a filmmaker, obviously. But I'm speaking like I'm an expert on it, so take this with a grain of salt. But I do notice it as a viewer and lover of horror movies. I notice it a lot, especially with these low-budget indie films, is these guys do not know how to edit. They do not know how to. Right, it's hard. It's hard because they got their they got their friends. They're doing great performances. They got funny jokes they think are funny. They want to keep in, but that stuff's got to go to the wayside. If it's not serving the plot, it's got to be out of there. It's got to be cut out. And that's hard.
Well, think about it, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard because, when you, especially like you said, the first-time filmmakers, they love all this stuff and they're so excited and they're like, I love everything about this movie. I don't want to cut a single thing. And it turns, sometimes it ends up, stalling the plot to the point of where, you could lose your audience, and you never. And this movie does such a great job of never even remotely losing the audience. Like there's not one scene that like does not draw your eyes to the screen at all times, where I don't find myself looking at my phone or anything, or looking elsewhere, and or thinking that, like, I was literally you get so immersed in this movie because everything is so deliberate and so well done. It's hard to it's a hard thing to do, but you're right. The screenplay was a masterful screenplay. The source material was great. The performances were great, and the cinematography was great. I mean, everything about this it deserves its classic status.
Yeah, and it's not a short movie. It's 2 hours and it's like 16 minutes, I think.
Something like that, yeah, and which is long for that time period, and it's pretty graphic for the time period. Some of the sequences,
yeah.
Like that. I mean, the rape sequence. There's it's just a lot of close-ups that I don't think back then they really had a lot of that in movies. It's just just the subject alone.
The close-up of the girl who jumped off the building. I mean, that kind of stuff just was really really graphic for the time. And one thing I noticed that kind of goes along with how great the performances were and everything. The directing, some of those shots, just the unbroken shots. And again, speaks to how tough this movie must have been to film. But some of these scenes are unbroken. And they take like the laundromat scene, I believe, was an largely unbroken shot where Rosemary's sitting there talking to the girl in the laundry room. And it's just this long conversation that they did in one take. I mean, obviously one, you know what I mean? They did it in one unbroken shot. I don't know how many takes it took to actually get that. Oh, good Lord. But it was just fascinating to watch some of those long unbroken scenes. I love when directors do it. I notice it all the time when they do it, and when they do it well, I particularly notice it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and some of the stuff in there, just little tidbits that are fun in it, like just the Like these are like dream apartments for people. Like you do not find this in Manhattan anymore.
No,
It's
gosh,
like,
no.
And just the fact that like that, I mean, this thing had that, like the Cassavetes. Like I'm like, that bar is the coolest thing. That cool little bar that he had.
Yeah.
And then, like, in their apartment and Rosemary's apartment, they had that really cool fireplace. And she's like, "Oh, I hope this is the coldest winter ever," And I'm like, "Oh my God," I'd say the same thing. I think I want to use that fireplace every night. It's like, it's really cool. Just the set pieces are great, and and it's just really, really just a cool like thing. And it's and it's kind of funny too because there's some sequences in there. There is a couple of things in there that like just someone from now, the time period of now, just would be like so probably taken aback, like, and I wrote the notes in there about like literally Rosemary does and expose herself to everything they say not to do while pregnant.
Yeah.
It's got like literally her stupid louse of a husband is literally smoking every scene in front of her. They drink to celebrate it.
Yeah.
What else? She drinks coffee.
Yeah.
She eats raw food. She and everyone, like it seems like everyone's smoking around her. It's like she doesn't rest when she's supposed to. She's eating weird foods that I'm like sitting there. It's so funny. I'm just like, oh my God, she's doing everything you're not supposed to do.
Well, that's for normal babies, not devil babies. Maybe devil babies like the opposite.
That's true. And back then there wasn't blogs or things. So, people used to smoke and drink while pregnant. No one knew.
And we turned out okay.
Yeah, look at Tim and I. Yeah. But no.
Except for this tick I have.
Yeah. And my incessant rambling. Yeah, that's okay. But there's just a lot of cool things. I did make a little funny note. I said Ruth Gordon's giant blue polka dot hair wrap should have a supporting role in
God.
this movie.
That thing was so
That
great.
thing just comes in and explodes on the screen. I'm like, wow, if this thing was 3D,
oh my God.
that would be the one where everyone's head goes back.
It looks like one of those things that hobos tie to a stick and like...
Yeah, like a bindle.
It's a bindle,
yeah. But it's like... But instead, it's like she's the stick and that's the bindle. It's like, in fact, that should be, if they ever started making merchandise, you'd have to have a Ruth Gordon bindle.
Yeah.
Themed bindle, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'd be some weird merchandise. Hey, get your Rosemary's Baby souvenirs over here.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, Ruth Gordon was pretty skinny back then.
Yeah.
So, I know.
But yeah, just a great movie. It's such a good build up to the final scene, and the dream sequence is really frightening. Actually, I love the dream sequence. In fact, I was telling Brian earlier, my cat freaked out during it.
Yeah.
Poor little Emma, she was sitting here sleeping soundly, having just a cat nap, and when that scene came on, there was something about the music or something they used, and she just flipped out, man. She stood up, her hair was on end, she was looking around. She knows there's a devil baby coming, like on the screen. Whatever he did there for that sequence, it not only creeped me out, it creeped my cat out. So that was great.
Plus all old, naked, wrinkled people. There's a lot going on
there
in
is. I tell you, I was kind of interested. Obviously I remembered the end scene. He has his father's eyes, the famous line at the end. I remember that, but for some reason in my mind, everything kind of ended after she saw the baby. And I was kind of surprised upon rewatching it. There's quite not lengthy, but there's quite a bit of exposition after that.
There is. Yeah, there's a whole
sequence, where finally she kind of struggles and you kind of see her make up her mind that she's going to raise this baby. So that kind of surprised me. I did not remember any of that from the original viewing. I just kind of, in my mind, you saw the devil baby's eyes and then it just stopped for some reason. But no, there's actually quite a bit after it.
And I have to tell you though, the sequence, and I thought this was so, that guy Roman pretty much is pretty tame throughout the movie. And when he starts doing the hell Satan, it's frightening.
It is frightening,
actually.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's so, because he's normally this old, what you think is like an old, brittle, dying man and he's so pretty much calm the whole time while he's got Ruth Gordon, flying off the deep end, But then he turns into, he's just and they're all cheering "Hail Satan" like this, and it's like, whoa, that is not the quiet guy I saw earlier in the movie.
The other thing that kind of creeped me out about that scene is, unlike a lot of movies we see that we've seen over the years that involve demon babies or whatever, or the Antichrist and all that kind of stuff, you kind of have this feeling that good will always triumph. But in this movie, it feels like they won. It really does feel like, well, I guess they did, but you know, they're sitting there, hail Satan and all this, like, and there's like foreshadowing of that. Like there's a sequence where she picks up a magazine that says, "Is God dead?" That famous time
again,
cover.
Another foreshadowing element that like pays off, that has the big payoff.
I mean, you really feel like the Satanist won this time around, and then when you see her kind of accepting the fact that she's going to raise this child, it really ends on a very apocalyptic and down note where like, man, it just gives you this feeling like there's no redemption here, there's no happy ending, there's no resolution. I mean, this ends in a very, obviously horror movies are not known for their happy endings, but there's usually some kind of resolution where the final girl gets away or the killer is thwarted or something, but that you don't get that in this. You know, the evil survives.
Yeah, and there was actually, I was looking at and some message boards, and there was a debate about it where one guy said, he goes, this ending, did anyone else feel unsatisfied? And this guy was lambasted. These people were all attacking, like, well, what do you want, a typical Hollywood ending? You know, and like, because he wanted apparently her to go in there with a knife and start slicing people's throats. But in the end, what would that done? You know, it wouldn't have done anything. That's not, you know, it would have been like almost a cop-out to me. I thought the ending was really fulfilling. That's the way it was.
Yeah.
And that made it truly horrifying, is that, wow, she didn't get out of this.
Yeah, and the trivia does say that the book had a little bit of a extra ending that the movie did not have, or had a possible ending. We'll get to that in the trivia here in a minute.
Yeah.
There's actually also a made-for-TV sequel to this, which I was imagining would probably be pretty bad.
Did you say this just sounds horrendous?
It really sounds bad, but it's called,
I mean, and they got Ruth Gordon back for it.
yeah, it's called Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby from 1976, and this is a sequel in which the grown-up baby, who's now an adult, must cope with the fact, his name's Adrian, must cope with the fact that he's Satan's kid and not living up to his expectations.
Yeah, he's like good. He's like a good kid in it. Like, and like, yeah, from what I heard, I haven't seen this. And I gotta tell you, I don't really have the desire to. I'm one about usually seeing like their sequels. I'll watch the whole, you know, the whole trilogy, whatever it's a trilogy or it's a two sequel. I'll watch it all. I'll watch the whole saga of it. But I just don't have any desire to see this one. I mean, I think if it happened to be on, maybe I'd leave it on. But I am not going to go out of my way to see this.
Yeah, it just looks, it just looks really, really bad.
I mean, and like I put some of it on the trivia more for entertainment's sake of it, and just interesting pieces of it. But other than that, I mean, I think this movie was as close to perfect as you can get for a horror movie, and there was not much I would change in it.
No.
You know, it's like, and including the ending, which I thought was fabulous. I mean, you got to, she, kind of metaphorically and physically spit in her husband's eye, so kind of like, you're you're an asshole kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but I mean, of course, would you a little part of you wanted to just slug him in the face? Sure, but you know what she did is kind of more insulting. Like, she didn't even like, basically he's so filth that she didn't even want to like dirty her hands and just like, I'm spitting in your face kind of a thing.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go through every trivia because there's a lot for this one.
No, there's a lot.
But I did want to mention that ending. And again, this is a spoiler for the book if you really want to read the book. But at the end of the book, Rosemary seriously considers killing the baby and then committing suicide for a few minutes. But then she takes pity on him, and after seeing the terrified look on his face, she decides to raise him as her own. Even though he's a demon, she decides to love him and mother him and let her good-natured human personality influence him, hopefully to do good, which I guess he did in the sequel. But she also decides, this is what I thought was interesting, she also decides to report everything to the Pope and the Vatican and let them handle the issue as they see fit. But none of this is said in the movie, which would be kind of difficult to do. I think it would kind of deflate the air out of the ending if you tried to put all this on.
What are you going to do? Like, put one of those, like, scrolling stories? Like, Rosemary has gone to,
Yeah.
Or they have that little guy come out. If Rosemary had gone to the Vatican, this would never have happened. Remember that? The Woody woodpecker.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, like what, there's so many things. From what I understand, it's very faithful to the book, and even in ways that, where they little like wink, wink, nod, nod moments that from the book that really didn't like, just as like a, for fans of the book would catch. But in this one, I can kind of see why they didn't put in, because there's really no way to visualize it, because if you tacked on the scene of that happening, it would not have the fulfilling ending it did.
No.
Like you said, it would have some kind of like you're deflate. That was a good word, because you could pretty much end it like a whoa, and then if there's another scene of her walking to the Vatican, excuse me, Mr. Pope, it's like what?
Yeah, it would just
work.
stretch on too long. Speaking of stretching on too long, the original cut ran over 4 hours. Can you imagine? But Roman Polanski couldn't decide what to cut, so he let editor Sam Osteen decide.
Well, that guy should have won an award if they had the editing awards back then. I don't know if they did, because what a job he did. But I heard an hour of that was just Charles Grodin manicuring his mustache in the mirror. So.
Yeah, Charles Grodin had this was his start, right? This was one of his first early films.
Well, I think he was in something, but yeah, this is his first like notable role.
Yeah. Another interesting one, that creepy lullaby at the beginning that you hear, the creepy theme, was actually done by Mia Farrow. She did the vocals on that. That's an interesting tidbit, because that's a very, very creepy title sequence.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've already talked about how this was the most faithful adaptation of a novel ever to come out of Hollywood, according to Higher 11. I mean, the author saying that a movie is a faithful adaptation of his book is almost unheard of. That's just
usually it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, there's tons of trivia for this movie. It's a fantastic film. Feel free to go read all that on IMDb, and definitely go see this movie, or not go see it, but rent it or watch it. I don't think it's available for free. I know you did say it's on Stars.
If you have Stars on Demand, it's free, or you can get it. Yeah, so if you have the Fire Stick and you add the Stars thing to it, you can get it that way.
Yeah. Or you can rent it for $3 like I did. Well worth it. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna actually. And it's funny, Tim and I both thought we owned the movie, and I could have sworn so, because I even remember the DVD box to it. But apparently, I do not have it in my collection, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's one of those things where I just always saw it, and I said, I got to pick this up one of these days, and I never did it. So, but after seeing it again and realizing that, like, this is something that I need to have in my collection, I am going to order it this week.
It's a fantastic movie. All right, Brian, so what did you do for our beer pairing? I can't wait to hear this one.
Okay, yeah, so this one actually is so funny. This one was waiting, because I knew we'd eventually do this movie. So I've had this beer pairing in my pocket, and I knew about this beer, I think a couple of years before we even we started this podcast, and the beer pairing is Rosemary's Baby, and the great pun on that is because it's by Two Roads. It's one of my favorite breweries out of Stratford, Connecticut, and it's one of their pumpkin beers, 6.8%. And here's the thing: the description is a traditional pumpkin ale with a two-road spin. It's aged in rum barrels for added complexity, depth of flavor. The result is a smooth drinking ale with notes of pumpkin, spices, vanilla, oak, and a touch of rum. And it's fantastic, but I got to tell you, one of the best pieces of this beer is the label artwork. It's a baby carriage where the part that kind of covers the baby is also half of a pumpkin.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you get a chance, do Google image search on Rosemary's Baby, and you'll love it. I actually I always meant to buy this as a shirt, and I never went and bought it. But next time I go to Two Roads, I think I might have to pick up this shirt, because they do have shirts of this. And as a bonus, I added, they actually they released, I don't know if this was always the case or they just released it in the last couple of years, but they have a spin-off basically called Rosemary's Other Baby, and this is 9.7%. And what it is it's Rosemary's Baby. The other Rosemary's Baby is using hand-selected, fresh from the distillery Caribbean rum barrels. We took these barrels and aged it even longer to create this frightfully good Rosemary's Other Baby. The extra aging results in an otherworldly brew with even more wood and rum character. So it's definitely basically like took it up a notch, and it actually brings it to 9.7%. So,
wow, yeah, that label is cool. It's just so Halloween
isn't it?
Looking. Yeah, I love it.
Right? Isn't that a great label? That's like, whoever got that should, like, I don't know if there's beer label awards, but this is just a great brewery. And Two Roads, we went on a tour for that, and they actually kind of allude to a lot of other beers that they do. And we found out, I think Julie found out that one of the ones they were brewing was, even though it's a Vermont beer, technically, they brewed Sip of Sunshine by Lawson's, which is known as a Vermont beer, but technically Two Roads Brewery was brewing it for them.
Cool.
So, and they do some other ones. So if you're ever in Stratford, Connecticut, definitely check out that brewery. It's like $5. You get a tour with 5 tastings on it. And they have a great tap room, and and when it's summer and warmer weathers, they have like an old Jetstream trailer that they have converted into an outdoor bar.
Awesome.
And you can sit outside, and they have food trucks. So yeah, great brewery, great beer, and a perfect pairing, I think,
Nice.
for this
I love
movie.
It. So our triple threat last week was a underhand pitch. It was very, very easy. I hope you guys got it. We were looking for a fictional character.
Cody did get it.
Yeah,
Actually,
Cody got it. That's right. Fictional character. Clue number 1, while I am definitely not an only child, the number of siblings I have has changed over the years. Clue number 2, I've been portrayed by 14 different people throughout my history. And clue number 3, one of the main debated topics throughout my history is what my driving force is behind what I do. Of course, we were looking for Michael Myers. The first clue, number of siblings. He's always had at least one sister, Judith Myers, because he killed her, right? But then we learned that Laurie Strode was his sister, and then we learned that she was not his sister. So it's varied over the course of the films. I'm not going to read all these, but he was actually portrayed by 14 different people, and that also includes young Michael in the Rob Zombie follow-up. So keep that in mind when you're doing your counting.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it includes all the different ones that played adult Michael Myers. There's the middle ones.
Yeah.
the remakes, so it's and think about it. Technically, 3 Michaels were in the first Halloween alone.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, 3 people played him. So yeah, so that was one. I think that was probably the giveaway. I think though. In this, I think that was the shoe-in because you got to look at someone like like some iconic characters. You think, okay, 14 different people played it. So one, it's got to be a lot of movies. 2, it's got to be a role that pretty much someone different plays every time. So you're looking at like a Jason,
Yeah.
or a Michael Myers, something like that. So it pretty much this is why we kind of thought this would be a nice underhand pitch for you.
Yeah, and then the final clue is, the driving force behind what Michael does. It's been debated, whether he just kills to kill. Does he kill because he's trying to track down Laurie Strode? Is there's a stupid cult of the Thorn he's involved in? Rob Zombie, he just comes from a broken home. Poor guy. I don't know. The new one, you don't get a clear answer because I was trying to say Jamie Lee Curtis. Laurie Strode is not his sister anymore. So now what's driving him? Dr. Sartain's trying to figure that out. So we just really don't know. So this week though, we have another easy one.
I think so.
This one's easy.
I think this one might be even easier.
It might be even easier. Brian, you're going to have to bring out one of the hard ones next week, I think.
I got some hard ones in the pipeline, but I figured that, we gave some really hard ones in the beginning that people are struggling with, so I figured we'd owe them a few easy ones, but they're going to get harder, I can guarantee it, and we're going to get really diabolical,
nice.
as Tim
All
says,
right. So
coming up.
This week, we're looking for an actor or actress. Clue number 1, throughout my career, I've played roles where I battled ghosts, aliens, and even Moses. Clue number 2, I worked with both William Hurt and John Hurt. And clue number 3, I was the first person to win 2 acting Golden Globes in the same year. Who am I?
Yeah, so that's a nice one for you guys. Everyone should get that one pretty easily. Wanted to give a nice broad one and an easy one for everybody, so good luck with that one. Let us know, give us the answer. And we will tell you if you got it right. We're not going to make you wait to know. Usually we get some interactivity. We'll even give you a bonus clue if you're really struggling and you're close.
Yeah.
But
and guys, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes, and that means not just a rating, but actually actual word review, so we get your name. Because we're going to enter everyone who leaves us a review in a drawing for a Civil Gore prize pack. And let me tell you, this thing's going to be packed with goodies. We've already got some good stuff to put in there, but after we come back from this horror con, we're going to have even more to put in there. And definitely we're going to throw in a cool Blu-ray, one that would be worthy of our pick of the week. So if you want a chance at that prize pack, and you got a darn good chance right now because we don't have a whole lot of reviews, definitely go out to iTunes and leave us a review. It not only helps us, it helps publicize the show, gets us those listeners, and it helps spread the word. It's hard to spread the word as a small podcast, so we look forward to you guys to get the word out and have people tune in. So we definitely appreciate that.
Yes.
It's kind of a give back to appreciate your efforts in doing that.
Yeah, and then we're not kidding. Tim has collected some great stuff. I have some stuff to add in there. We got some cool stuff, and it's stuff that you not necessarily could get your hands on. Like, we'll have the Comic-Con New York Halloween poster that was out that good old Cone and our friend Kara got for us to give away. And so there's some good stuff in here. So definitely keep that in mind.
All right, guys. So we will see you back here next week for our New Jersey HorrorCon preview. We're looking forward to it. In the meantime, stay away from those nosy neighbors. You never know what they're up to.
Yes, and remember, this podcast isn't a dream. It's really happening.